everyone, if you're an existing subscriber, hello and welcome back. If you're new to my channel, hello, welcome, and why not hit subscribe now? I'm your host Alicia Victoria Keenan. I've been interviewing inspirational people and businesses to find out how and why they inspire others. This week I interviewed founder of Coaching the Man, David, who also has an interesting story. Hi David, and welcome to the channel. To begin with, if you could just introduce yourself, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is David Caulfield. I am from Ireland. I'm 33 and I am a life coach and a presenter.
How did you get into the life coaching sort of things? Is that something you've always done? Is it something you always wanted to do?
I got into life coaching because of being coached myself. So I was having a bit of a heart into how to help myself. And I found out that coaching was a really helpful tool to help me overcome things like anxiety that I was experiencing quite a lot of back then. And then once I'd really figured it out and helped myself and began to move towards what I wanted my life to look like, I found that I enjoyed sharing the information that I'd learned to help myself. So then I just enrolled in how to become a life coach to learn more myself in order to help me answer the questions that people had for me. But then it became something that I just was a bit more invested in and spent a lot more time on when I wasn't presenting, so in between jobs. And it then just manifested itself into a business, and I just had a little bit more experience and want to help other men to learn how to speak out about the things that were going on inside their head. And that's when Coaching the Man was born.
Funny enough, I was actually going to ask you that question. I was going to say, was it the case of helping yourself? Because you do find a lot of people who go into life coaching, they start their journey
Yeah.
as helping themselves before they help others.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing, because for a lot of, like, I would never be afraid to go and seek, counseling or therapy if I thought I needed it. So the first stop that I found was coaching was a little bit more exploratory, around everything regarding your life and about moving toward a particular goal, because it wasn't that I was deeply unhappy about everything. I was just not really happy in the situation that I found myself in. And I knew that I could change it, I just didn't know how. So life coaching really does help you move towards that and helps you unlock all the things that you know you are capable of doing. So when I realized that I could do that, I knew that there were more people around me that were not really happy with their current situation. And when you go through coaching, they do always encourage you to pick a niche, because life coaching is very broad. So I thought I would choose a niche that I was familiar with, a niche that I thought needed a little bit more attention. And that's where I kind of looked for coaching encouragement for men, and there wasn't that much of it. Now that I'm in this circle, there is a lot more of them when you go looking. And over the last year, and since I started, there are more and more and more of them cropping up over and over again. So it is really good to see that there are other coaches out there and other, I don't know how you say, other people who are like skilled helpers looking into how to get men talking.
You mentioned there that it was the case you didn't find yourself happy in the situation. What was that situation?
It was my job. I was working in London. I was working for a very well-paid job. I was where I wanted to be. I'd strive to work and live in London for a long time, and I got there and it was great, and then it wasn't, and then I wasn't really fulfilling what I felt was my purpose. I wanted to do more, and the job that I was doing at the time was very sales based, and it wasn't anything that made me really feel happy. And there were parts of the company that I worked for that were just felt a little bit restrictive.
A lot of people do probably find that themselves in that sort of situation. What would you say to them? What was the point of kind of realization for you?
I think the awareness. So when I got to the point of actually realizing what it is that I really wanted to do, and I did that by getting some introduction coaching. So once I knew what I wanted to do, and I realized that that wasn't what I was currently doing, and that I wasn't doing anything in the realm of helping myself move towards what I wanted to do, it became a little bit clearer. And then when you have that self-awareness of what it is that who you are and what you want, it's kind of a little bit easier to figure out how to go out and get it. I didn't want to just be, although the thought crossed my mind, I didn't want to just quit my job and give up and go back to Ireland. I was determined, but I didn't want to do it the dramatic way.
How did you end up over here instead of Ireland? Obviously, you said you didn't really want to go back. How did you end up here in the first place?
It kind of just happened. I was performing overseas. So I worked for entertainment companies, and I worked overseas. So I've worked all over Europe and in Egypt and stuff like that. And then what happened was I was working for a UK company, and I moved back to the UK thinking that I could move towards maybe working for them again. And I met somebody and we moved in together, and then I left that company and I started working for another UK based company, and then I just moved around the UK, and then eventually my goal was to come to London. So it happened really, it wasn't intentional, but eventually it became something that I intended to do.
A lot of people say that if you want to grow yourself, then it's important to move away from your hometown. Obviously, that is basically what you've done. Do you think that's helped with your success?
I think it helped. Well, with regards to success, I would say it helped me be a little bit more, explore who I wanted to be and explore who I was. I am a gay man, and I was very welcomed into that community in Ireland. But I think traveling was always something that was in me. I went and worked on my own in Spain when I was 16. So I traveled for the first time. And then also when I was even younger, I would spend a lot of time like with different members of my family, like uncles and aunts, like over the summer break of school. So I always had that travel bug. And I guess what traveling allowed me to do was to meet so many people from so many different backgrounds that if you never left your own community, you probably might not have come across. But I was lucky to do that. And I realized that I had more opportunities to do things that I wanted to do in industries that I was interested in, more so than if I actually stayed in Ireland, in Dublin.
16 is quite a young age to move away from home.
It was, yeah. I mean, and I didn't move away from home initially at the age of 16. I just like went and traveled in the summer break or the break in between school, because I didn't really have that many like core group of school friends that would be like motivating me to stick around in the school holidays. So I just found that I had opportunities to do other things and go to places, so I took them.
And how did that pay off? What was one of the most important things or beneficial things that you learned from that?
Good question. What did I learn most from that? I don't know. I mean, I guess when I was growing up, I was always quite a mummy's boy. I was always quite a home. Like I would come home from school and then I would just like stay at home. I wouldn't be the type of person that would be out playing in the street and stuff. But traveling and finding that I had people that I could go and spend time with, it really made me become a little bit more independent at the time. Now, like, I don't know how that, looking back, how it's benefited my life. There's so many things that have benefited my life based on those decisions. The biggest thing I am grateful for in that is my mother allowing me to go. She was the first person who agreed to let me go and work in Spain for 6 weeks. And, that's hard to let somebody who would have always stuck around to let them go.
Having that support from your mum, did that help? Did it help having a good support network, as opposed to, I don't know, someone who was saying, don't go?
Yeah, I mean, and that's always been a support that I've always had. A lot of people, even through times when I wasn't really happy, especially when I first got into coaching in the beginning, when I found myself like in a dark place, the support that I had from my family was always next to none. And then even later, even just last year, when I went through all of the my testicular cancer diagnosis and stuff, the support that I had from my family back then, and even now, you feel that you can always come home. You don't have to, but there is always space for you to, and you can always return to the nest, or come back and get the support that you need to help you go on further. And that's really important. And I think some people find that in their family, some people find that in their friends. I'm lucky that I find it in multiple locations.
Which is good. It's good that you've got that network around you. I do want to speak about your cancer a little bit later in this interview. Obviously, you've recently had an operation as well, so I would like to speak about that a bit later on. But first of all, I just want to speak about your presenting and your performing.
Yeah.
So, what exactly is it you do?
I am a presenter. So I have worked in so many different areas of that title, everything from broadcaster to host to presenter, and they all fall under different categories, but they generally are exactly the same thing. It's just a different ways of doing it. I fell into presenting at first when I was working for a holiday company, and it was part of the job, and we had to host these evening family shows for holidaymakers, and it was just something that we did. And we did this charity event, and I hosted I kind of developed a children in need style thing with an auction, and I did all that, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the production side of it. I really enjoyed developing the show, and then I really enjoyed hosting it. And I had a great team around me at the time, and they were like, you were really good at that hosting, like, and I was like, oh, it was fun, like, you know, it's something I enjoyed doing. And then we just started doing more of it. And then what happened was, then I got picked up from another company who were looking for somebody to be a specific presenter. And I applied and I said, yeah, I'm up for it. And then it just kind of took off from there. So a lot of my early hosting was on stage, which is great, and there's nothing like the energy you get from a live audience. And I've done everything from children's presenting. I hosted stuff for CBBC at their summer social, and I hosted like live adult stuff in, you know, big arenas. So it's quite varied. And then I've spent time working with a lot of camera stuff. So when you finally get the opportunity to be in a camera studio or a multi-camera studio as a presenter, it's a real dream come true, because you really look up to, as a host, as a presenter, as somebody who's always been interested in it, you look up to the people that you see doing the job, and you see them on telly, and you know, there's the great people who've been doing it quite a long time, like you've got your Ant and Dex and your Philip Schofields and all of those people who are, you know, I don't know, trailblazers in their craft. And if you're interested in their career, you can find out more about that. But I was always interested in just being that person that people could look to make them smile, to make them entertained, to make them feel the way I felt when I looked at other hosts on telly.
Did you have any training in that field?
I did have some training. I mean, a lot of the training was about technique and just being aware. So as a host, you have to be a little bit more aware of being able to read the room. You have to be aware of what's coming up next. You have to be aware of the time. You have to be aware of so many different things. So you can get training for those things. And then you get training for being able to take the personality that you have, that people know and love you for, and pour it through the lens of the camera, so that everybody can feel that in the 15 minutes, 30 minutes, what they're enjoying you on screen. And also just trying to be super engaging and not be too handsy and not do all of those crazy things that people find really distracting. But I would say the biggest training that I had is that I'm just a really observant person. So people that I like and people that I respond to, people that I thought were really good at hosting and people I wanted to be a bit more like, I would look at what they do, I would look at how they do it, and then I would try and implement that into how I would host.
What was one of those things that you implemented, and who was it from?
So recently I did a show, a camera show, and it was the end of last year. And I didn't have a microphone. So for a lot of presenters, you're holding a microphone, which means that this hand isn't moving. You haven't got a microphone. A lot of the technique is to try and make sure that you're not moving your hands too much. Mm-hmm. So I watched a load of people do that kind of presenting and see what they do with their hands, whether they keep them in their pockets, whether they have them clasped together. So the one person, I mean, you could see if you ever wanted to be a presenter as a host, Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield. There's a bit in This Morning. This is quite relevant because you can see it any day of the week without having to go into the archives. But there's a bit in This Morning where they do the spin the wheel bit, and they're just standing there and they just have to make sure that their hands aren't flailing around all the time. Whether they do that consciously or whether they do it subconsciously because they've been doing it long enough now, but you can see it, it's obvious that they're not moving their hands too much. Sometimes they'll have their hands in their pockets. Holly doesn't have hands in their pockets. And the hardest thing to do as somebody hosting and talking and trying to get a point across without moving your hands, as a human it's difficult, but as a presenter it's harder, is to just keep your hands by your side because it doesn't feel natural.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know that feeling. I know, especially like when I first started this channel, I was constantly going, hello, la 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 la.
Yeah.
You do it automatically without even thinking about it. So no, I am 200% with you on that one.
Yeah, especially when you're quite an expressive person anyway. So that's probably something that you do when you're talking to your friends or when you're getting passionate about something. But when you actually have to come to look at yourself in the camera, you're like, why are my hands going faster than my mouth?
How did you stop yourself from doing it? Was it just having that mental awareness?
Yeah, it's like anything, and it links back to coaching because it's just about being aware. When you are aware of something, you can change it. When you're not aware of it, you can't do anything. And I'm sure as a performer yourself, you've realized that one of the hardest things back when you started performing was watching yourself back on camera, listening to yourself back on tape. When you can listen to it and get used to it and be comfortable with it and do more of it, you begin to be aware of the things that you do, and you try and just, once you're aware of them, you won't do them again. You have things like people have a lot of buzzwords. There's probably buzzwords that I've used a lot of, but you will be aware of some of them when you watch reality TV show where people aren't really presenters, but in life they use a lot of, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like and M's as well.
Yeah, 200%. Completely get where you're coming from. Yeah. And like you say, watching yourself back and then being aware. Is that part of your coaching? When you are doing your coaching for other people, how do you make people aware? How do they get that awareness?
So a lot about coaching with individuals is about just allowing them to express what it is that's going on inside their head. And then when we're expressing ourselves, especially things that mean a lot to us, to have somebody who is not going to judge you, to have somebody who is not going to give you advice, to have somebody that is just going to really actively listen and take parts of what you said that could probably do with being explored a little bit more and offer them back to you, that's when you can kind of really understand what you've expressed. So I can only talk about times when I've been coached. So I've been talking to somebody and I've expressed something, I've been talking about it, and they've said, when you said this, what did you mean? And then you go back and you go, oh my gosh, did I say that? And they're like, yeah. So then it's just being made aware of what you've said or how you've expressed yourself. And that's how it works in both fields, because once you're told, once you see it, that's when you can kind of then turn around and go, oh, okay, now I'm aware of it. What can I do about it?
And what's the next stages to that? Is it the research like you did, or is there other
It's
paths?
just about maybe creating a plan. Sometimes people might think like, oh, I know I can do something about it, or if they don't know what they can do about it, then they can just, you don't have to decide right now. You can think about it, and you probably will come around to a solution within yourself, something that feels comfortable, something that feels achievable, and then you will explore the plan of action and then see how feasible it is. And then with a coach, you also have that accountability. So when you know that you're going to return to a conversation with somebody, you will normally want to have explored something or tried something in order to get you to that point, because otherwise it's what's the point? It's a lot of coaching is about you making the changes. Nobody's going to do it for you. So it's your accountability.
Now, you're obviously a very positive person. You come across on camera very positive, very happy. Does that help when helping others that you're not kind of all down in the dumps and
Yes, like most, I mean, I'm generally, I have quite an optimistic view on the world, and I would always consider myself an optimism. I am not always the most positive person. I am not always this happy. I have my up times, I have my down times, and I'm okay with those. But it helps when you're coaching somebody to always not get caught up in their negativity.
Mhm.
I'm a little bit of a social sponge in general situations. So if there's too much negativity around me, I will begin to become susceptible. And I think we all are. I think we're all very easily manipulated when we're exposed too much to one thing, which is good in a positive way, but not so good in a negative way. So I just, again, let's bring the awareness back in. Being aware of how susceptible I am to the energies around me, I just have to make sure that I'm around the right energies.
For someone who's watching this, what would you say to them if they find themselves in that situation where they're around quite a lot of negative energies and it's starting to have an effect on them? Obviously, it's easier said than done. How can they get away from that?
Um, I mean, negative. Sometimes it's harder to do if you find that you're actually in an environment right now, which many people will be, that you're in a household of somebody who is taking the news of life quite negatively.
Mm-hmm.
That can be tough. You might be with friends that you live with, or you might be with family. What I would say is that if you are getting it from one particular area, then try and make sure that the other areas of your life aren't also providing that. So you could be, in a household with a sibling that's generally quite negative or pessimistic. But you could also then just make sure that the content that you absorb through media, be it the programs you watch, the social media you consume, the friends you keep outside of your household, you can make sure that they are positive influences. If they're not, then you can change them. But there is a lot of things that you can do with regards to the people around you. And look, you're probably going to find sometimes that you'll meet up with a friend and you'll be quite negative because things might not be going currently the way you had hoped. And that is allowed. But you also need to be aware of how much you are being negative for others. So you kind of have this I go into schools and we talk a lot to students, especially year 11s, and about the pressures of exams. But we always talk about the people you keep as your friends. Are they going to charge you up, or are they going to drain you, like your phone? Are they going to make your phone increase in battery, or are they going to drain the life out of it? And that is how you have to treat yourself, and that's how you have to treat the world around you. What builds you up, let's have more of that. And what drains you, let's have less of that.
Completely see where you're coming from. Funny enough, when I very first started this channel, I did an interview with someone and they said your vibe is your tribe. And
Yeah,
that
good.
stuck with me so much. So what you're saying there completely relates.
Yeah, we have a saying among the people I do speaking with, which is show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
I like that. I've not heard that one before. I do like that very much. Going back to like your journey, what you've been on over the past year. What happened?
So we're talking about my cancer diagnosis.
Yeah.
So, well, I had lockdown like many people, and as the world began to open up, I was at the time I was in Ireland with my family, and I decided I was going to come back to the house that I live in the UK, so come back to England. The day before I was coming back, I found a lump on my testicle, and like the thing is you always think to yourself, oh gosh, if I ever did find something like that, a lump, my world would just fall apart and I don't know what I would do. But actually, in my situation, I found it. At the time, my mum looks after my nan, so she wasn't home. My dad was in work, he works nights. So I was in a house on my own. But I instantly just went, okay, that is textbook. That is exactly what I have always been told a lump on your testicle is. That is what I would consider. If somebody asked me what is testicular cancer, I would go, that's it. So I went, okay, we've got to do something about it. But it's 12 o'clock at night, so I can't do that now. So I went to sleep and I slept okay, woke up the next morning. I kind of had a little bit of a reality check. I was like, okay, this is actually real. So I got a phone call from a friend of mine at the time, and she was like, you don't seem yourself. And I was like, oh, I'm a bit stressed. She was like, is it about traveling because COVID? And I was like, no. I was like, it's something else. So I explained the situation to her, and she said, okay, well, based on my knowledge of the situation, you need to get it checked, and you need to get it checked now. So I did. I rang every doctor in the town and I got a cancellation, went and spoke to a doctor, and they said, okay, well, we can't rule it out. We can't rule out testicular cancer, so we need to move to the next stage. So the next stage was a scan. So then again, the journey unfolds. And I found out that the lump was a lesion. It was going to have to be operated on, and it would result in me losing a testicle. And they wouldn't really know what it was or how long it had been there until after they'd taken it out. So the journey of the whole process was the 1st of September to the 31st of November, so the 1st of December, to the point of finding the lump, to knowing that I don't need any further treatment like chemo or radiotherapy, and I am cancer free. It was quite a journey, don't get me wrong. It had its ups and downs, but I will say the reason I found the lump is because I was aware of myself to notice the changes. And the reason I got myself through the situation as easy as I could is that I was aware that once I was in a system, I was going to be looked after, and I was.
A lot of people in that situation would perhaps put off going to the doctor.
Yeah.
How come you didn't? How did you, what would you say to them? If someone's worrying about something, what would you say to them?
So I think a lot of the reason from the people I've spoken to over the last 5 months since my diagnosis and since I went public with it, the people I've spoken to, a lot of them don't ever think that it is anything serious. Mm-hmm. So when you think, oh, it's not anything serious, or you're afraid, fear generally stops us doing a lot of things. When you're afraid that it might be, so you want to delay that actual reality, but you don't delay it. You just create a new emotion, which is your anxiousness about it in the background. But when you know, and when you go to a doctor and you know that there's something not right, and can you check this for me? They take you seriously. They really do. Especially when you're concerned about a lump like a testicle, or for yourself, it could be a lump on your breast, or anything else, like anything that's not normal that wasn't there before. People take you seriously. So that was really comforting. So now I would say to anybody is that if you think that you've got a lump, and I can only speak for testicles because I don't have boobs, but if you think that you have a lump on your testicle that you're unsure of, you don't know what it is, there is so many things that it could be, but it also could be testicular cancer. So go to the doctor and get it checked, and peace of mind is priceless.
Having that coaching mentality, did that help you through?
think everything that I discovered over the years of coaching and the years of like studying coaching, because it's not something that you learn and then you implement and then that's it. You're always constantly, like, I'm always reading a book about stuff that helps me understand different situations that I might come up against. And I think part of it was to do with just being in that environment of dealing with the now and not worrying about the later. And that was really something that I learned when I got coached myself, because we can get anxious about the things in the future that may or may not happen, but we can be a little bit more still and a little bit more in the moment with the things that are happening. So for example, what helped me cope, my coping mechanism, was to never go further than the next appointment. So when I had my scan and they found the lump, I knew that I was having an appointment with, say, for instance, the consultant. And I knew when that was. So I didn't try and think, what if the consultant says this, that, and the other? I never allowed myself to go too far down the line, because that wasn't a productive task for me. When it did happen, that's when I would find that I did get a little bit, fearful. And it happened one or two times, but I pulled myself back from it and I tried to stay in the moment. And that's what helped me. That's what helped me stay positive.
Well, really pleased that you're all clear now. In terms of your life, what does it look like at the moment? Are you still presenting? Are you still coaching?
Yeah, so I am coaching private clients now. I've been doing that virtually since the beginning of lockdown. And actually, it was never my intention to do virtual coaching, but actually it's a lot easier for me. So I do it whether I'm here in the UK or whether I'm in Ireland. So it's a lot more manageable and time effective to coach somebody for an hour on your computer wherever you are in a private location than it is to try and figure out a way to get to them. So I do that privately, and for one-to-one coaches or one-to-one clients. I also work with a company that does, like I told you, motivation for students. So we're still doing some of that, which is virtual, obviously, because the schools are closed. And I also, so that's where coaching and presenting kind of merge a lot, is in that arena. And then I do other stuff like corporate hosting and public hosting for all sorts of things, like from, corporate Christmas parties to book launches to all sorts of weird and wonderful things. I'm doing a science thing soon, which is fun.
That sounds completely different, but
yeah, it is. It's quite varied. And that's the thing I love most about the job, is that you could get a call from somebody asking you to host something, and you go, okay, what is it? And it's just completely like different to what the thing you were doing the last time you were presenting. It's fun. I'm very lucky.
Yeah, keeps you on your toes, I bet. Have you seen an increase in the coaching since the pandemic?
I have seen an increase in the amount of people seeking something of the kind of a place to express themselves, and there is a lot more platforms where people can do that. The amount of coaching for me as it's kind of the same. It's a lot. I spend a lot of time trying to just raise awareness for men's mental health, for suicide prevention, and now for testicular cancer awareness. So I do a lot of that. So when I'm pouring my energy into all three of those things, then I find that the coaching is consistent, but I can definitely see from the last year that it is something that people are a little bit more aware of and a little bit more inclined to seek out.
For someone who's watching this, if they're looking for a life coach, where can they go to have you as their coach?
So I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Coaching the Man, and I'm on my website, coachingtheman.co.uk.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Finally, I do have 10 very quick questions.
Go for it. I'm excited.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Chocolate or sweets?
Chocolate, all day.
Favourite moment from Coaching the Man?
It's more of a thing. It's when somebody's eyes light up when they've managed to figure something out. That for me is, as a coach, is the thing I love the most. But Coaching the Man as is the Instagram account. When I spoke out about my cancer diagnosis and the messages I get from other men, those are all my favorite moments, when people come to me and say, because of what you did, or because of what you said, or because of that post, I have now realized that this, and that is great. That nothing beats that feeling.
No, I bet that's an amazing feeling. Next question, what's your favorite color?
My favorite color when I was a kid was always green, and I've come back to it. I don't know where I went, but I've come back to it. It's always, I would say, green. My housemate loves green as well, so it's everywhere.
Yeah, I can see the green tree in the background. Does that something to do with it?
Green coat here as well.
Summer or spring?
I would say summer.
Christmas or New Year?
Christmas.
Chips, cheese or gravy, yay or nay?
No.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I could go with chips and cheese, but no gravy.
Oh, I'm controversial on that one. Favorite sport?
I was never really a sporty person, but I do like running. It really does make me feel a little bit like I'm in the moment, and it helps remove the fog from my brain sometimes. So running I would say, if that's considered a sport, is my one.
Would you rather be being proactive and doing something, or relaxing?
50-50 on that one. I would say I'd much rather be proactive, but I'm not afraid to relax and give myself the time off, and I don't tend to give myself a hard time for relaxing, certainly not in 2020 and 2021.
Yeah. Party or beach?
Beach. I don't drink anymore, so going to the beach would be much preferred to me. I'd rather host a party than be at a party.
Okay. And final question, best coaching advice that anyone could ever listen to?
The best coaching, well, coaches never really give advice. However, if I was to provide some advice that I've received as a coach, I would say that it is always to listen to hear rather than listen to respond.
Very good bit of advice. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Alicia. I love it. Thank you so much. It was fun.
Show me your friends and I'll show you your future is such an important quote. In life, I know personally I've learnt that your friends definitely have an impact on the direction you're going in. Now you can follow David at the links here. If you have someone that inspires you, comment below. I'm always so interested to find out who others find inspirational. Likewise, if you have an inspirational story to tell, comment below, drop me a message on social media, or even drop me an email. I'll be back here on Wednesday at 5 o'clock to inspire your story. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, comment below, let me know what you think, and don't forget to hit subscribe. See you on Wednesday.